I have two of my good buddies on the line from the American Federation for Children. I'm talking about Myles Slade-Bowers, and I'm talking about Marc LeBlond. Thank you again for joining me here on News Radio KDKA. Gentlemen.
Lenny, thank you. Good to be with you.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you so much for having us.
No problem at all. So what people missed, you guys, is that it was school choice week. And they missed it because there was this huge storm going through most of the country. And if it wasn't snow, it was cold. It was snow, then cold. And then if you're in the southeast, it was snow again and cold. But with that said, there was a celebration of school choice that went on this past week throughout the country. And I have brought it up multiple times. You all have brought it up, talking to me over multiple times. And in full disclosure, we all met at Commonwealth Foundation. I used to work there. I'm a senior fellow there. Marc used to work there. Myles used to be an intern there. So disclosure's out of the way. That said, truth is we have seen this momentum continue to build in states around the country. What's the state of school choice? And I'm going to start with Marc first. What's the state of school choice when it comes to parents and their preferences?
Hey, thank you, Lenny. And I appreciate you invoking, what was in the past, in terms of you and me and Myles working together all those years ago at the Commonwealth Foundation, because I think it's important to take stock of where we were then and where we are now and where we're going as we're rounding out National School Choice Week. So thinking back, roughly 5 years, give or take, when you and I were working together and Myles was a teenager keeping us old men on our toes, if you'll remember, Lenny, we used to talk about...
Speak for yourself on that old man stuff. Go ahead.
Fair enough. If you remember, Lenny, you and I used to talk about school choice. We would evangelize it, and we would say, oh, well, there's 5 states, maybe 6 states with education savings account programs. Then we'd have to explain it because nobody knew what an education savings account was. We'd say, oh, well, it's like a health savings account, except it's the taxpayer dollars that would ordinarily be allocated to your own child, and they'll follow you, and you can spend it on tuition plus, curriculum, textbooks, that sort of thing. And at the time, 5 or 6 states, about 500,000 students nationwide had access to some sort of private school choice, whether that's an education savings account or a voucher or a tax credit scholarship program like we have in Pennsylvania. Then 2021, 2022, Arizona and West Virginia enacted these universally available programs, like Social Security, available to everybody. Everybody can choose their child's education. Now, 2026, we've got about 32 states, plus the District of Columbia, have some kind of a private school choice program. 1.5 million participants. We're rapidly approaching 2 million participants. We've more than tripled, and nearly 20 states have that universal access for families and students, like Arizona and West Virginia started 5 years ago. So as we're moving forward, we just saw Texas pass $1 billion program. Just in Texas, it stands to serve 100,000 students. We're not slowing down, Lenny, for when it comes to parent freedom and education. All gas, no brakes.
So, Myles, and again, I'm going to dive into this because this is part of the myth busting when it comes to school choice as well. And I brought this up myself, and I'm certain you're diving into these numbers also. People generally have a tendency to believe that that school choice dollars go to the middle class and the upper middle class, that minority children are left behind. And I had brought up over the years how polling suggested that African American parents actually leaned into school choice more than the average American family would. I'd have to imagine that's still the case now.
What I can tell you, one, Lenny, it's certainly a popular issue when it comes to our Black and brown communities, especially when they're given the information and properly equipped to take advantage of these school choice programs. I can tell you what it was like for my family. When my mother had heard about the school choice program, she did everything in her power, and calling anyone who would pick up the phone to say, what can I do to ensure that my son can continue getting the best education has to offer? because she was tapped out. There was no other avenue. There was no one coming to save her, so to speak. And then, you hear about this wonderful thing that almost sounds mystical and not real in the school choice program, and it gives parents, it gives families that extra little push to keep going, to keep giving. And in Pennsylvania, although it's not as robust as other states, when it comes to scholarship amounts, it allowed my family to keep on going. And I think, like you said, it's a widely popular issue amongst Black and brown voters, and families and households, not just in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, but across the country. When they're hearing about these school choice programs, they're all for it. They're gung-ho, and they tend to vote that way as well. They care about their child's education, and they're looking towards the future.
Myles, let me continue with this before I go to break. And the people that I'd like to, I know the answer to the question, so I'm kind of playing a little gullible. I apologize. Maybe I'm not playing gullible. Never mind. We won't get into my IQ right now. Anywho, I digress. That said, there are people that think that the only people that take advantage of this are people that are politically aligned or vote a certain way, Republican versus Democrat. But in fact, when it comes to the people that, and Myles, I'm going back to you, the people that enjoy these programs, that benefit from these programs, and that are really robustly engaged with these programs, it's across partisan lines from what I've seen over the years.
Yeah, Lenny, it's exactly that. School choice is not a red or blue. It's not a political issue. It's a family issue. And the bottom line, the parents are fed up with the fact that their students aren't getting the best out of education, and they want control back in their households. Whether they're red, blue, if they believe in homeschooling, charter schools, or public schools, they want the control back in their hands.
And Marc, he brings up a very valid point that school choice is school choice. This is something I evangelized over the years. School choice does not mean anti-traditional public school. Now, for some people it does, but I know you too well, and I've known you over 10 years. Both of you understand that school choice means school choice. It means that the parent has the agency to choose what's best for that child. Marc, talk for just a moment about families that do that. They have 3 kids. One's in a traditional public school because it works for that individual. One's in a private school because it works for that individual. And one's in maybe a cyber school because it works for that individual. And that's the essence of real choice, to make sure that all 3 of those kids get the best that they can get.
Absolutely, Lenny. I've talked to parents who have identical twins, and they're going to 2 different schools because they might be identical. They might share the same DNA, but you know what? Kids are different, and one's going to the public school and one's going to a Catholic school. And it's great for families that have those options. And, in states like Florida, now like Arkansas, like Texas is rolling out this week, actually, now we're giving families who don't just have the means, those options to diversify their choices for their children, but everybody's going to have access to those, including low-income folks. And I wanted to touch on what you mentioned, what you started the conversation with, Lenny, about education being a difficult conversation, and build off of what Myles talked about. We've just conducted polling in Mississippi, where legislation is moving right now, but we polled conservative voters. We polled Republican primary voters. This is like brand new, fresh from the field, and came back with overwhelmingly supportive results. But what we found, interestingly, was the more conservative the voter, the more fervent the support. So we're talking like people who have voted in every primary, going back 4 primaries, fervent support 80+%. And I thought back to myself, when else have I seen support this high? And Lenny, you'll remember it was when we did polling in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia specifically. It was African American Democrats in Philadelphia, 83% for school choice. So school choice, it's an issue that some interest groups like to make political, and they like to stir up controversy over. But when it comes to normal, everyday Americans, the school choice issue transcends those political barriers.
I want to continue this conversation with these 2 wonderful colleagues of mine. We work together in the realm of empowering parents, but they used to be colleagues of mine at the Commonwealth Foundation. They're both now with American Federation for Children. I'm talking about Marc LeBlond. I'm talking about Myles Slade-Bowers. I will get back to them after the break here on News Radio KDK. All right, coming back talking to Marc LeBlond and Myles Slade-Bowers. Myles, let me go to you on this, because you've lived the school choice experience. you've had a chance to, and I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm proud, obviously, but it's also pretty remarkable for me and Mark, I'm certain as well, to sit here and talk to you because we saw the beginning of this. We saw it from what you said. Your mom looking for other options for you. We've seen you go from that to the pinnacle of American government and talk to the President of the United States about how school choice impacted your life, the Secretary of Education, the Pennsylvania Speaker of the House, and now you're doing the work in your career. As you look back on that, can you ever look at the other side and say, I can't imagine what life would be like if those things didn't happen? I mean, not everybody's going to talk to the president, but, have you ever taken a moment, and I say that, you'll see in a second, have you ever taken a moment to look back and say, what would life be like if this didn't happen? Because your life is a reflection of what others could have, maybe not at the very height of heights, but it's about what school choice offers everyday kids that are looking for more, that could do more with just an opportunity.
You know what, Lenny, I'm so glad you asked that question, and I want to focus on what you said right there at the end, what school choice could offer beyond just the monetary assistance that school choice is for families. The real life impact is that you get to be in an environment that actually meets your educational needs. There, you will be in a room with teachers, with faculty who care. And for me, it was a man named Joseph Scarcella who changed the way I looked at government, at facilities, at my necessity for civil participation, the need to advocate for oneself, to advocate for those who do not have a voice. And without the months of sitting over, diving over papers and the various fundamental documents of the United States, I would not have had such an invigoration, a passion, and the building blocks to continue what I'm doing here today. And school choice was the catalyst to that moment, to those classroom experiences. The man who inspired me to read beyond what was required or what was assigned. Take these 4 books home from his personal collection and come back and let's have an argument about what you think. And it's those moments that I could take 0 to none. Meeting the president, like you said, is certainly is an accomplishment, and I look at it as my wall, and certainly amazing. But what is more important and has a place here on my desk is the card that he wrote me when I graduated high school. It has never moved. It's never left its spot. And no matter where I go, it will always follow me because those months, those days, those weeks, those hours spent in his classroom are infinitely more important and have changed my life so profoundly. And if not for school choice, I would have not had that opportunity. I would not have had Joseph Scarcella standing with me, standing by me in the trenches of learning. And I'm so grateful for those opportunities.
Mark, let's talk about that for just a little bit, because more often than not, when people talk about school choice and a need for school choice, it usually comes in the dynamic of bashing the traditional public school. Look at these school grades, and then whack, whack, whack over the head of the establishment, if you will. And this is why you have to do school choice, and we're closing academic gaps. And there are definitely school systems where you have to look at them and say, okay, this has been failing for a while. But the flip side is, a lot of times in America, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And school choice provides an opportunity for many kids who have been on the periphery of society for decades to finally start getting into the who you know aspect of things so that people can see their natural talents. Not every talent is what you know in a classroom, as you well know, Mark. Sometimes talent is charisma. Sometimes talent is understanding intuition and nuances. And school choice sometimes puts kids in environments where they learn those skills as well. Can you talk a little bit about how that balance is between, hey, we got to close these academic gaps, but hey, if we're going to have America be a stronger nation, we need more kids to have more opportunities overall?
Yeah, Lenny, it's a phenomenal point because we're talking, on the one end, we're talking about, something like basic safety, right? So we're talking about in Wisconsin, for instance, where school choice has been shown to be a difference maker between, whether students enter the criminal justice system or not, whether students have teenage pregnancies or not. So on the one hand, it's a matter of life and death. On the other hand, you see in, suburban areas and other areas where it can be, hey, we're expanding opportunities for everybody. We're expanding, your circle of friends, your circle of influences. Hey, you might not have ever considered this engineering program had you not gone to that school through that program. So we're really talking about a situation where school choice is lifting all boats. I mean, you just need to look at, say, Florida to see this in action. There's a body of research called competitive effects research. And I know that's super wonky, but it basically just means that the more school choice you have and the more school choice scales up, the more everybody, including the kids in the public schools, do. And, there's really robust research conducted by David Figlio. Your listeners can look it up, but showing how this has worked so well in Florida, and it's working in other places, where everybody's being lifted up, not just the kids in the program, also the public school students are benefiting from this too.
Guys, tell me where I can find more information about the good work that you both do. Myles, I'm going to go with you first. I know you do different things at AFC. Myles, you first, please.
The most important thing I think we want the listeners to take home with us today is that even if you're struggling with the limited school choice options here in Pennsylvania, what we are very excited about and still celebrating the victory of is the federal school choice program that passed just this July. You can go to federalscholarships.com to learn more information about what's coming up in the next few months. Rules still have to be determined, but that's federalscholarships.com, and learn more about the Education Freedom Tax Credit here in the United States, where how you can qualify and how you potentially give so that other students here in the Commonwealth, when we opt in, can take advantage of those dollars.
Marc, 15 seconds. Give us your website at AFC, please.
Thank you, Lenny. That's federationforchildren.org. And check us out on formerly Twitter, now X, at School Choice Now.
Marc and Myles, thanks as always for joining me here on News Radio KDKA.
Good to be with you. Thank you, Lenny.